You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Well, what's going on, everybody? I am glad you are here, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad I have a night to talk to you fine folks. And, sometimes on this show, we talk about, well, heck, we've talked about everything, right? Relationships, education, parenting, talked about personal things, about my family, myself. I've had my kids on the show. We've gone across the game. We talked about sports. I mean, today we're going to tackle a new topic. And, honestly, I've talked to multiple people about this topic, really wanting to have a couple guests on with this topic because it's a big deal. And I'm going to, it hasn't worked out for there to be guests on the show, but I'm kind of ready to talk about it and to dive in as best as I can. So I hope you listen. I am no problem if you agree or disagree, but hopefully you have understanding and grace. And if nothing else, the conversation continues after today. But episode 79 it's what's true and what's false about racism, and that's going to be our topic. Racism is obviously it's been a topic, for our country's history, right? It's been something that has, torn apart families. It's showed us the epitome of fairness and the opposite of fairness, like things that are so unimaginable, so grotesque, so hateful. Um, there and then with that there's another side of the coin, and there's been love and beauty and forgiveness and story after story of hateful hearts turned to love. And so it's tricky because sometimes the person who is in power gets to determine, whoever has the microphone in their hand gets to kind of determine sometimes, well, what's racist and what's not, and who gets to talk about it. And we've had a lot of new verbiage over the last decade relating to white privilege, relating to, the privilege and institutionalized racism, and just so many things. And the college campuses are definitely in full fledged preaching and teaching about these topics. So, like I said, it's a great topic to talk about. I would love to have another episode in the future where we can get some dialogue and some experiences, but we're gonna go for it tonight. So, what's right and what's wrong with racism? So let's first. Well, I didn't say that right. Let's try to what's right. There's nothing right about racism. There you guys. Did you catch that? What's true and what's not true about racism? So, boy, that would have been a rough start to an episode. But thanks for glad I caught that. So first of all, we know that racism. What is racism? And I think a definition of this is super important because we throw around the word racism a lot, but not all racism is created equal. Not all racism is the same. There's levels to everything in life. There's levels to how much you love your wife compared to how much your next door neighbor loves his wife. There's levels to the types of parents that are out there. There's levels of like a good boss versus a bad boss. There's nothing, we should never take a word and that word becomes an all encompassing discussion point for whatever that is. Okay, so what we know about racism, the core of it, that there's not going to be any debates about this, is that racism takes a human being who was created by God and says something about their race makes them less than someone else. So, for instance, if So for instance, what that's not is if somebody has, a better, well, I'm not even gonna go with that. That's that. I'm gonna come back to that. So if we would all say that those actions are wrong. So one of the things I saw when I was a public school teacher is you would have a kid, and let's say it was a kid from Mexico or Mexican descent. And let's say that kid was talking in Spanish to another kid in the class, and they both understood each other. And let's say that this was just like everybody's talking, right? It's not during the class. It's just, and the teacher was like, we don't, we only talk English. We only speak English in this class. Okay. Is that racism? Is it not? I mean, you could play a fun game, not really actually fun, but you could have an interesting game of how do you determine what's racist and what's not. So in this teacher's mind, she, let's just say, has always grown up and taught where everybody just spoke English. So for her, she's not used to hearing kids speak in a different language. Now, I think it's understood that if it's a class activity and something's going on, everybody has to speak the language, which in this country would be English, because we all need to understand what's going on. But in a private conversation, that can be tricky, and it was tricky for this teacher because the teacher is her old. Let's just say it's an old school mentality that we're only speaking English, but the way she comes across is we only speak English. You're like, oh, so you're singling me out because I'm speaking Spanish because I'm Mexican. And it's like in her mind, like that's not what I was trying to do. You can speak Spanish anywhere you want, but in the classroom, we're not. Well, the bell hasn't rung. It's just my private time. Well, you're in the classroom. So now we have this little gray area of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And the problem with calling this teacher's actions racist is, and let's just say they're not for right now, is you don't know that to be true. You don't know her heart. You don't know why she's saying that. Now, let's say, though, that she does have a prejudice against it. Let's say there is an element of racism going on here. Okay. What's the worst thing that she did? Well, she told people they can't speak their native language in her classroom. She's taking away their rights and essence of free speech, I guess you would say. And she's doing it because her heart has something against them. Now, that if we want to call that racism, that's super, super low. But if we want to call that racism, that's fine. But you have to know for sure someone's heart before we just start claiming this. And here's why. This is why it's important. Because you know what? I understand the two kids talking, like, who cares what they're doing, right? Like, I don't care what language anybody, I could care less what any language. If they're happy and they're doing their thing, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't offend me as a teacher. But what I want to be certain of is we live in a society where people may feel and may think and have definitely experienced racism. Okay, I haven't per se. I mean, there's a few things that doesn't matter for this conversation. I haven't, but there's a chance that that these kids have. And so what we want to do is we want to move to a place of like respect and understanding. So what I want to do is I want to go up to these kids and say, "Hey, like I actually would love to be learning some of the words you're using right now. Like I I love kind of like figuring out what I can understand, what I can understand. But in this classroom, I've had a rule about like just one language, and I know that might sound mean or bad or like I'm targeted. I'm really not. It's hard for me to determine where the line is, and so this is just what it is. Is that cool with you guys? Are you good with that? And now here's the other thing. That kid those two kids, them like, totally, teacher, like everything's cool, yeah, no problem. When you have respectful conversations that go both ways, that's where growth happens. That's where we're able to continue to move the bar further and further from racism. But these are the things that have to happen. If we are so quick to call racist everything, we lose the ability to work through problems respectfully that may be racist, but it may not be. Let's change it again. Let's say that we're talking about a racist teacher. We're not speaking that Spanish in here, whatever she says. And you're like, after class, one of the students who is speaking Spanish goes up and they're like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, I didn't know that rule. I am sorry. I do kind of enjoy, I don't get to speak Spanish a lot at school. I have a couple Mexican friends and we kind of like to talk, but it wasn't meant to disrespect you or your classroom. It's just something that, sometimes we do. So it won't happen again. I hope you understand it was harmless. It was just our conversations. Now think about that. Now let's say the student is saying it to a teacher that we know behind the scenes is racist. What does that conversation do? What that conversation does is it has the potential of softening someone's heart. Isn't that what this is all about? Isn't our objective as a society not to finger point, not to say, well, you'll never understand or you know, isn't our objective to understand where human beings are coming from? See, this whole idea, I'm going to tell you, I don't buy. So some people will say, well, you can't understand something unless you experienced it. Okay, I agree with that to a point. If I think there's truth in that statement. But here's the deal: the fact that I haven't experienced racism doesn't mean that I haven't witnessed racism. Doesn't mean the fact that I haven't seen friends throughout my life overtly say and do things that are racist, and that I didn't see how that behavior affected a friend of mine. I've seen racism. I know racism. I also know it's not racist. And I know that I don't want to, my objective isn't to see how many things I can say are racist or how many people can be called out. My objective, honestly, isn't even to know, if you're watching this show and you've had 10 things happen to you that are racist, it's not that I, it's not that it doesn't tear me up that these things have happened to you, but the same thing that happens in all, see, we, if we're too busy calling a racist statement or action racist, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't call people out on this, we also have to have in our arsenal the conversations of forgiveness. See, it's funny. There's so many elements of life where conflict takes place, and the process of de-escalating conflict, the process of moving to a place where the conflict can be behind you is through honesty, vulnerability, forgiveness, grace. But for some reason, this topic seems to be sometimes the hardest topic to do. And I think that there's political motivations for this. I think that there's definitely a lot of there's been so many wrongs that have done by racist people that it's hard to expect someone to forgive. I mean, goodness gracious, we could start taking the quotes of Martin Luther King and not just "I have a dream" stuff, but the ways in which Martin Luther King chose. I'm not even just talking about the nonviolent stuff. I'm talking about forgiveness. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about how you truly rise above evil. You love it. You forgive, even if they don't want to be forgiven. Like, the answer to this isn't how many, and in our society, in my opinion, our society has gone backwards in this area. You know, there was an evolution of where you could see progress being made. But if it's the objective for racism to be perpetually always an issue because it's a moneymaker, it's a political topic, then you know who gets screwed in that is all of us. Because here's the deal. At the end of the day, I don't really care that much about your race. I don't think that your race, I'm interested in learning about your race. I like cultural customs and, language and food nuances. All that stuff's super interesting. But it's always going to be more important to me what type of man you are. It's always going to be more important what type of woman you are. It's not, it's your race is irrelevant. And they say, well, okay, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say. You're a white guy. Okay, well, let's talk about being a white guy. You know what it means to be a white guy? What it means to be a white guy is that I get to live my life in a way that has a greater level of freedom for me to be what I want myself to be. Like, okay, what does that mean? I'm going to restate it in a different way. If I don't have, you may say, like, maybe I do. I, generally speaking, as a white American male, a white Christian American male, it's like a terrorist to some people, I don't have a way that I'm technically supposed to be. I can eat a particular type of food. Um, I can be religious, not be religious. I can, um, you know, like this music or that music. Like I have freedom within my race, whatever that means, to be who I want to be. My thing is, I think that freedom is amazing because I want to create, so whatever and whomever Ben Keech is, whatever is good about me, whatever is bad about me, I'm in control of that. Not the color of my skin. No, I'm not getting into the privilege stuff. That should be another. Again, you want to talk about privilege? We can be a different episode. What I'm saying is, when our society pigeonholes people that they have to talk a certain way, be a certain way because of the color of their skin, then it restricts them to have to associate with a label more than just who that individual is. I just believe there's uniqueness with each of us as human beings. And I think what's happening, and you're slowly starting to see this, is you're seeing, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your socioeconomic background, when people, I believe this. I think this. See, some people get super, super stuck and hung up on these labels. So about what's not true about racism is, what's true about racism is that racism creates people that want to solve that problem or they want to diagnose it. And when they diagnose it, that it's always going to be a problem. When they diagnose it and they mischaracterize racism, when they talk about racism without any conversation of love and forgiveness, and when we miss the boat and we see that, you know what, when I walk around this world, what I see of people, I have definitely seen racism in my day, but man, I've seen far more love. I've talked to far more people who love and care for all people, way more than I've seen the other side. I know there's a hateful other side. I know there's people that have these things and these thoughts that fester inside them that come out as racism. But you know what I also know is those people need to be loved. What I also know is there's only one remedy. And the remedy isn't the continual stirring the pot that pits one race against another race, or that pits this whole mentality. I mean, we can't even, I'll give you an example. We can't even take police brutality. Okay, so let's say unarmed black man, white police officer, and the white police officer kills or does something bad to the unarmed black man. Okay. Everything that I just said sounds real horrible, correct? Correct. Except for the fact that narrative in today's media culture is the only thing that's stated when these things happen. So you have the George Floyd situation, you have the Ferguson situation, you have Baltimore, you have all of these situations, you have white men killed by white police officers, which never gets reported but happens more often. You have these things that take place that either don't get reported or aren't told the whole story because there's a desire for perpetual racism. Now, before we get fussy with me, I know there's been police officers that have done the wrong thing that's led to an innocent person dying. But my question for you is, do we know that the police officer that did the wrong thing did it because he's racist or she's racist? The answer is you don't know that. I don't know that. So I am unwilling to make statements about what anybody does, factual or not factual, unless I know what the evidence is. I know that there's things that have happened with police and black men, especially throughout the history of this country, that would make me want to put a bullet into the police officer's back. As horrible as that sounds, like I get angry when things happen that aren't fair. I don't even like fathoming the idea, but I know that it's happened. And I know on some level it still does happen. But we as a society, for us moving forward, we can't be locked into the sins of people that came before us. We also then, because what happens then is we always assume the worst in every situation. We assume the teacher said not speaking Spanish because she's racist against Hispanics. We assume that this happened with a police officer because he hates that right. He hates black people. And for us to actually move forward on this issue isn't about taking a T chart and saying, well, here's all the racist things, here's all the non racist things, or all these things are racist and all these things have to be fixed. We can't even agree on what's racist. Okay. Obviously, the show would be super interesting if we had people from different races and different experiences having a conversation. I'm starting the conversation right now. I'm inviting and encouraging. Let's continue this. I would love to rent out a restaurant and have a kind of a town hall setup where we had an audience and we had a panel of 3, 4, 5 people, and I'm just simply asking questions to learn and understand what people's experiences are. That's what I want to do. So I'm putting a few things out here today to start some dialogue. Let's get the conversations going. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. Tell me what you want to tell me. But my objective is healing. My objective is the same thing for any wrong done to anyone in our society. We have to find a way to be apologetic. We have to find a way to be humble. We have to find a way to forgive. And we even have to give grace. There's no sin, especially with there's no sin that's so severe that we can't get to that point with what we're talking about. The most evil, racist men have had changes, have had heart changes, have realized their ways. And it doesn't happen by going around and talking about how privileged these people are. It doesn't happen by calling everything under the sun racist. It doesn't happen from a media that mischaracterizes at times police officers. It comes from honesty, good dialogue. Let's just get the facts. Let's just talk about those things. So the invitation's out there. What's right about racism? What's wrong? What's true? I keep doing it. What's true? What's false about racism? Let's have these conversations and let's check ourselves before we have those conversations. Where's our heart at? If your heart is at, I love all people, I care for all people, I want reconciliation, I want to be judged by the man or woman I am, not based upon the color of my skin. And if you are white and you have these elements of disgust or racism or hatred in your heart, check yourself. Be honest with yourself. Take that to your God. Take that and pray for that it's rid, that you learn to love with the heart that Christ created you to love with. That's my objective. That is the way we move. And I'm sorry, the liberal colleges and the things that are going on right now, all it's doing is it's tearing us apart. The Democrat Party has racism wrong because everything is racism, and it's to further their agenda. I'm not saying that everything that Donald Trump has done or said or believes is right. But what I'm saying is there's a different way that we should be going about it, and we're going about it the wrong way. But if you disagree with me, let's talk about it. The invite's there. But for now, I'm closing up episode 79. In this, we'll just call it a teaser episode because I have a funny feeling that we will revisit this topic at a later date. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trying your best to understand with what I was trying to get across, whether you agreed with it or not. And I cannot wait to talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.